All right, looks like we are live here.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Evan, and that's my sister Aubrey.
You just gonna take over, aren't you?
My sister's smiling.
Well, everyone, I am here. I have my co-host with me tonight. I have the lovely Aubrey J, and I have Evan here with me. No, I'm kidding. They just wanted to get on here and say hello to everybody. So y'all tell them hello. Tell everybody hello. Yes, before they go to bed, because they are going to bed. It is way past their bedtime, at least by 30 minutes. So you guys, y'all go ahead and go to bed, okay? You told them hello. I know they want to take over the show, especially this one, but you can't do that. It's past your bedtime for sure. Good night.
Bye.
Love you. Love you guys. Good night. All right. So I wanted to jump on here, and before I even get started, let me jump on going live on Instagram too. So I want to make sure my connection is right. All right. Yep, I think we are ready to go. We are good to go. All right, fam. So I am here today. Well, this evening. Hopefully everybody is safe, because I know it was some pretty bad storms going on earlier today. So hopefully everybody is safe. Everybody is doing well this evening. And I'm talking to, so I have Facebook on right now live, and I also have Instagram. So for those of you who are watching from Facebook, Instagram, thank you so much for joining. For those of you who will be catching the replay, please let me know that you have dropped in. I want to hear from you. Feel free to put it in the chat. Let me know that you are watching and that you're able to catch it. Completely understand if you're not able to right now, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. So hopefully by now, most of you know that I have a book coming out. So my book is coming out on my birthday, January 23rd, Aquarius season. Okay, so January 23rd, my book will be out in pre-sales. And the title of my book is Boss Moms Move Differently. It is a guide to help high achieving moms reprioritize their well-being, redefine motherhood, and reinvent their lives. So it's all about the moms, especially the go-getters, the ones who I know you really don't want to put things on hold. Like, you just struggle sometimes with, should I wait until retirement before I decided I want to actually start doing some things for myself, before I start accomplishing some of these major goals. And so my purpose of this book is really to help guide you into making the space to actually get out there and do things that align with who you are. And a lot of times what that means is you have to put yourself first. That's just what it means. It means putting yourself first. It means reprioritizing some of the things that you have in place, some of the plans that you have in place. And just getting it. Like, it's a lot of resources and tools, and it's based on my experience that I have in the book, as well as even some clients and business besties, friends that I communicate with, and even some family members. So I am sure that you will find this book useful if you are in a similar place. I'm talking from a place from 5 years ago. So hopefully, if you are watching, if this is something that you may find helpful or beneficial, please share it with a friend, share it with a family member, a coworker, anyone who you know that just may be struggling. Like, they're struggling to just find more alignment with the things that they want to do. Like, they're struggling to really make the determination of whether or not they should follow a particular goal that they have in mind, and they just need more guidance. And so that's what this book is about. So if you know someone, please share, please let them know. I would be so thankful if you do that, because again, I feel very confident that this will help women who were in my position, who were in my seat just literally 5 years ago. Okay, so for the purposes, and let me just give a quick announcement. For those of you, if you missed it, I have my book cover back. So I cannot wait for you all to see the final version of my book cover. It's been a lot of back and forth, but all that to say, it's ready. And I'm excited because it's finally something that I want. It's finally something that I'm happy with. And that's just that was just the icing on the cake, because the content is one thing, but just having the cover, having something that I'm happy about is just it got me over the top, y'all. It got me over the top. Okay. So tonight I'm going to be talking about my first chapter, the first chapter of my book. Okay. So I want you to have a better idea of what to expect, especially if you are interested in purchasing the book, or if you know someone who may benefit from this book. I want it to be, I want to give you kind of a taste of what to expect upon purchase when you receive this book. One thing I do want to note is that it will be pre-sales that will be beginning on my birthday. So on January 23rd, that will start the pre-sales launch. However, the physical book won't be here until April. So I'll give more details about that on my during my virtual launch party. So my virtual launch party is going to be on January 23rd on my birthday. So I hope that you can make that. And I'll be sharing a lot of information there and going into a few more details about the book. But again, it's going to be just pre-sales on my birthday, and then the physical copy is going to arrive in April. So I got some giveaways that I want to give out to people who are some of my first people to purchase the book. So I hope you can support. But let me go ahead and jump into the first chapter. So again, the title of the book is Boss Moms Move Differently. And so it's a guide to help high achieving moms redefine motherhood, reprioritize their well-being, and reinvent their lives. Okay. So chapter 1 breakdown is all about awareness. Okay. So it's really what I'm doing is I'm challenging those moms. And again, I'm talking from a mom's perspective. Okay. And so what I'm doing here is challenging you to think about how you're showing up as a mother. Like I'm challenging you to think about the decisions, the thoughts, the behaviors, the actions, the mindsets that you've adopted, let's say over the years, over a period of time. And it's determining whether or not some of those mindsets, some of those habits, some of those actions, some of those decisions that you're making, if they're really serving you right now in your life. And when I say, is it serving you, is it really helping you to get closer to your goals? Is it helping you to get closer to where you want to be? Right. And so that's what the first chapter is about. And so I start out and I basically, I'm talking about cake, y'all. Okay. So if you know me, if you know me, if you really know me, you know that I love a good cream cheese pound cake. Okay. I love me a good cream cheese pound cake. And this was a recipe. So I've been baking this cake for years. It was a passed down family recipe. My mom taught me when I was maybe like in high school or something like that. But I've been baking this cake for years, right? Like this, and I'm not a big baker. Like I don't bake a lot, but when I do, I show up with this cake. Okay, like my husband, he loves it. We between the two of us, like we would devour this cake with just the two of us. Okay, but all that to say, so like over the past year, I have been making this cake, and for some reason, the cake just was not coming out the way I wanted it to come out, and I don't know what was going on. It was like I kept using the exact same recipe, and mind you, because of the fact that I've been baking this same cake since I was like in high school, like I knew this recipe off the back of my hand. Okay. Like I had it written down. If I ever had questions, I could easily go back. But at the end of the day, I knew this recipe. I had it all in my head. And again, for over the past year, I'm like, yo, I'm tripping. Like, why am I not getting this cake right? And so it was to the point where this past Christmas, I made the cake around the holiday season. I even got the kids involved. Like I had them mixing, I had them doing everything with the cake, right? And for some reason, the cake still did not come out the way I wanted it to come out. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong. So I was calling my grandma. I called my aunts. Like I'm asking, I'm like, what am I doing wrong with this cake? And so by the time we got off, I came to the conclusion that it probably was a result of perhaps just maybe it was the oven, like maybe I was just cooking it too long. I also came to the conclusion that maybe it was just like the cake pan, because I was like, it's not me, like it's not the recipe, because I know this recipe off the back of my hand, like I know this. And my grandma, my aunts, they validated. It was like, yeah, that's the recipe. That's exactly how you should be baking this cake, right? So all that to say, my grandma, she celebrated her 90-year birthday, and this was the day after Christmas. So yes, Grandma Calvary, I love her to pieces. She celebrated 90 years of life, y'all, which is amazing. And we went to her birthday party on the day after. So we celebrated. It was most of my mom's side of the family. We were there. And all that to say, I finally built the courage up to ask my uncle. Actually, I didn't even ask my uncle. So my uncle, he's the one who can make the best cakes. Like when he makes these cream cheese pound cakes, like it literally melts in your mouth, y'all. Like that's how good this cake is. And so instead of asking my uncle, I asked like a group of family members because again, I just didn't have the courage to like come and ask him, like, what do you do with these cakes? Right. Because I was like, well, somebody will kind of give away, if there's a recipe, if there's something going on, somebody will give away the recipe, right? Like they'll tell me if I'm missing an ingredient, maybe I just didn't know about, maybe I just forgot. I don't know. So I asked some of the family at the dinner. Okay. And I'm like, I'm making this cake. What is going on with my cake? Like, y'all, I was really disturbed by the fact that this cake was not showing up the way I really wanted it to. Okay. Like, I was really disturbed by that. All that to say, my family started sharing and they were asking me, they was like, well, are you using this and that? And I'm not going to share the recipe. Okay. So I'm not giving away the family recipe, just so you know. But, they were asking, like, are you using this? Are you using that? Are you mixing like this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing all of this, right? Like these are the recipes that I'm using. And my uncle, he came in, the one that we love his cakes, right? He's the one who bakes the cakes where it just literally melts in your mouth. And so he kind of intervened and he was like, yeah, y'all have the right recipe, but the way you're mixing is not right. And so we were just kind of sitting there. We were like, no, that's not right. Like he was trying to explain to us that the way we're mixing the cake, like we had all the ingredients, we had the recipe right, but it was just the way we were mixing. And so I remember even my grandma, she was kind of side on him, like, yo, like, no, that does not sound right. Like, that's not the way we were taught. That's not the way we've been making cakes. Right. And so it was like my grandma, my aunts, and all of us were just looking like we were not taught that way. And so he was like, yeah, that's because you got to look at it differently. You got to look at how you're mixing this cake differently. And so we were like, okay. And so, we kind of leaned in a little bit more. We were like, okay, well, tell us more. And so he explained to us what we needed to do. And for those of you, if you bake cakes, especially cakes from scratch, you'll probably know that there are so many different ways that you can, that people, if you look at it on Google, you will see all kind of recipes where people are telling you how to bake cakes and how to add ingredients and all this stuff, right? And so he gave us a way that I had never heard before. And I said, okay, me and a couple of other family members, we said that we would go back the next day and actually try another cake. So that was cake number 2 for me. The cream cheese pound cake was the second cake that I made, probably within like a week's time frame. Okay, so went back home, made it, and during the process, I used all the rest, all the ingredients to the recipe, and I did it the exact way my uncle told us to do it. And he kept telling us, he said, when y'all do it, it's gonna look like you're probably gonna be thrown off by the way the texture and everything looks. He was like, but just keep going, trust the process. And so I did it. But even with him telling me that, I'm mixing this cake, and I even had my kids because it took longer to kind of go through and mix the cake. And so I even had my kids involved in this process. And I got to the point where I started doubting the whole thing. I was like, okay, this is not right. I put all this money into all this money, and I mean all this money because we know the price of eggs, right? Like we know how much eggs cost these days, right? And so I remember I was like, I'm in my feelings. I called my uncle, I called my aunt, and I'm like, I need a sanity check. Can somebody tell me if I'm doing this right? Because I know we just had a conversation yesterday, but this cake is still not coming out right. And so the consistency of it just was not coming out right. And I'm like, why? Like, what's going on? And so finally, as I kept going, and I just kept in my mind how he kept saying, trust the process. You got to do it differently. Trust the process. And finally, by the time, probably maybe close to 45 minutes to an hour, it became the right consistency that I was familiar with. And so baked this cake. It was the best cake, hands down, that I had ever made. Ever made. Okay. I was so happy about this. Like my husband and I probably devoured this cake between the two of us. Like it was just that good. Like it melted in our mouth. It was so good. So all that to say, you're probably wondering, like, why am I bringing up this whole thing about a cake? Like, what's the point of this whole cake? Well, when I look at this cake and I think about how delicious this cake was, right? This was the end result. I look at cake, that delicious cake, as a representation of our lives, as a desired life, right? As a life that we desire to have. And so when in the book, what I'm talking about is this cake. represents, this delicious cake is representing a delicious life, kind of looking at it as a delicious life, a life full of joy, a life full of fulfillment, of meaning, a life that just, aligns with who you really are. And that's the way I look at this delicious cake. That's how I look at life, right? And so, all that to say, when I'm thinking about the cake, I think about the recipe, right? And so in life, a lot of us, especially as moms, right, we have certain scripts that play in our minds about how we should show up as mothers, meaning how we should think, how we should act, how we should discipline our kids, how we should how we show up with certain traditions and certain religious things that we have in our families, right? Like some of these things, there are scripts that are playing, and not to say anything is right or wrong, right? It's that's not for me to decide whether or not anything is right or wrong. But what I do here is I challenge you to really think about in the book, what are some of those scripts that may be playing in the back of your mind, right? When it comes to being a mother, when it comes to being successful as a mother, right? Like when it comes to like hitting your goals as a mother right now, what are some of those scripts that are playing in your head? And when I think about scripts, I think about scripts being synonymous to the recipe, right? The cake recipe. So a lot of us have these scripts, which can be like narrative, right? Like in terms of what do we think, what do we have in our minds that fit the definition of being a good mom, right? Because for some of us, what a good mom is, for example, like when you first have your child, when you first have your newborn baby, especially when you're a first time mom, you have everybody in the world trying to tell you how to handle that child, right? That how to handle the baby. You got some people telling you, oh, you should breastfeed. You got other people telling you, oh, bottle feed. Some people telling you how to burp the baby, how to change a diaper. You got debates between Huggies versus Pampers, right? Like everybody has an opinion, including some of the dads out there, right? And they're trying to tell you how to handle this baby. And so you get to a point, and I know from personal experience, I got to a point where I heard so much, right? All these scripts that were going on that was playing, where I was like, you know what? Like I was overwhelmed by the time I had my baby. I was overwhelmed and I felt like I was just lost. And it wasn't until I actually started writing my own script, when I started really becoming more comfortable with how I was showing up as a mom and how I was getting more acclimated with my baby, that's when I gained more confidence and more clarity about how I needed to function when I was taking care of my baby. And so I say that because, again, going back to the cake, you got this recipe. And a lot of us in life, we have the recipe. We have the recipe. We have everything we need to have a successful life, to be successful even now. Yes, even as a mother, even with young kids. Yes, you have an opportunity to be successful and to find success and to have the things that you want in life. But oftentimes, what I found, and this again from personal experience, there are certain scripts that were playing in my mind that stopped me from even trying to go after some of those goals that I had in my life. Okay. I talked myself out of it. And some of those scripts show up because they have been influenced from other people in your life. So it may have been from other other mothers. It could have been from your mom or other mothers in your life. It could have been from maybe your father, maybe other female influences or mother like influences in your life, right? And a lot of times what I find is that we have the recipe. We know exactly what we need to do, but sometimes we just got to do it differently. Sometimes rather than playing the script, right? Like some of those influences, and not to say that everything is wrong. Again, I don't want to paint the picture as if some of these influences that we've seen, right, model over the course of our lives, some of it was in earlier childhood experiences. I'm not saying anything was wrong, but what I'm saying is it right for you? Does it align with who you are right now, and in terms of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to show up every day as a mom? Right, every day as somebody, if you're trying to be a boss mom, right, or if you are already a boss mom, you're already out there, trying to get it, but maybe there's some certain scripts in your mind that may be holding you back because you're thinking about, well, this is the way I was taught, this is what was demonstrated to me when I was little, right? And so I'll give an example of that. When my daughter was first born, she I was a stay-at-home mom for her first year. Okay. And it was like a little over a year. I stayed at home with her. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all. And I talk about this in the book. I'm not gonna lie. I will be fully transparent here. Um, Although I love the fact that I could experience my daughter taking her first steps, saying some of her first words, meeting some of her first friends, right? Like it was an amazing experience. Like, and I'm truly grateful because a lot of people just didn't have that opportunity, right, to be at home with their kids. But what I learned, and I was ashamed to talk about this. I was ashamed to even embarrassed to tell anybody. I realized that being at home full time, okay, as a mother was just not for me. Okay. I know for some people that may not be a popular opinion, right? But that was me. That was my own experience. I'm talking from my own experience, and what I realized was that it didn't fit with who I was and really what I wanted. But I went back and I started asking myself, like, why did I make the decision to be a stay-at-home mom? Okay, why did I make that decision? And what I realized was that it was because my mom stayed at home with us for the first couple of years of our lives, and I'm truly thankful that my mom did that. Now, my mom was a teacher, so she had a different level of patience. She was an elementary school teacher, so she had a different level of patience, just to be able to handle that, especially with multiple kids, right? But for me, it wasn't even about the patience factor, right? It was just more so about the fulfillment. Like I just at one point in time, I had the goal, I had the vision that, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to be at home with my kids for the first 3 or 4 years, like my mama did, right? Or like even my mother in law. My mother in law did the same thing. She was at home with my husband for the first couple of years of their lives as well, right? And so it made me question, like, am I doing the right thing by saying that I'm going to go back into a job? Like, am I going to go back into a career when I know that what's been demonstrated and what I've been seeing is very different. And so it for the longest time, I did not want to tell anybody. I didn't want to share it with anybody. I was embarrassed. I felt like anybody would want to take advantage of the opportunity. But for me, it was just not really doing me a lot of justice. And I think some of that was even because I was experiencing postpartum depression, even on top of that. And so I really needed that interaction. What I realize about myself now is that I do need more human interaction. During that time, I was isolated. I was still fairly new in my marriage. Just wasn't really close. I wasn't really physically living close to a lot of my family and friends. And so a lot of that contributed to it as well. But I realized that I needed that connection. I needed connection with other adults, other human beings outside of that. And also I'm a creative. Like I love to create new things. I love to lead. I love people, and I love the aspect of just going after goals, right? Like I'm a goal getter. Like that's just me. And I've always been that way. Anybody who knows me knows that's just me, right? But I question that because of the scripts that have been playing in my mind. And so I go back to the example when I say the scripts, meaning what are those things that are playing in the back of your mind, right? Like what are those things that subconsciously you're probably not, some of you may be aware, but when you think about like in terms of how you discipline, how you communicate with your kids, right? And again, it's not my job to talk about how you communicate and if it's right or wrong. But the point I'm making is oftentimes what you'll find is that perhaps maybe the way you're showing up as a mother when you're communicating with your kids, when you are making certain decisions or even certain mindsets around being a mother and being a successful mother, right? A mother who's making a decent income, a mother who is moving up the corporate chain, or a mother who is building out a six-figure business, right? Like for some of us, at such as myself, there were certain scripts that played in my mind that held me back from even wanting to pursue those opportunities. And so in this chapter, I want to challenge you to think about some of the decisions, some of the thoughts, some of the mindsets, behaviors that maybe you're showing right now, like maybe it's showing up in terms of how you're acting, how you're serving as a mother, right? And some of these again may be influenced by other people in your life. And again, it may be from early childhood experiences, it may be from social media, certain things you're seeing from social, it may be from family, friends, anybody, right? But I want to challenge you to think about what are those scripts that are playing for you right now, okay? And who have influenced that in your life. And then I want you to go back and also think about, is it serving you right now? Because for some of you, the reality is it may be fine. It may be serving you and you're happy. You're happy with that outcome, right? Like you already got your delicious cake. You already got your delicious cream cheese pound cake and it tastes so good and you are good, you're good to go. Like you don't care to have anything else, right? But for some of us, and it's just a lot of times it's just the way we're built, right? Like for some of us, we're just built differently. And that's why I have the book, Boss Moms Move Differently, right? Because for some of us, we are built differently. And we find ourselves fighting with what we really want versus maybe what we feel that we should be doing, right? Like some of the decisions that we're making those decisions because we feel like maybe we should do it, right? Versus is this something that you really want to do? So I want you to think about that and think about how it's showing up in your life. And if you find that the decisions that you're making, some of the thoughts, some of the actions, some of the behaviors, the mindsets that have on a day-to-day basis, how you think about money, how you think about being a mom, how you think about success, if you find it is not serving you, meaning you don't have the ideal cake, right? You don't have that delicious cake. Maybe you have a mediocre cake or a mediocre life, right? Like maybe you find in your heart that it's something more that you want out of your life, and you don't want to wait until your kids are good and grown before you actually start doing something for yourself, before you actually start walking into your power today, before you start making an impact on lives, before you start writing books, y'all, before you start writing, because some of you got books, you got dreams, you have things that you want to accomplish like right now, today, and you put it on a back burner because of those scripts that are playing in your mind. And so I want to challenge you, and I want you to think about that. And so that's basically what chapter 1 is about. Now, when we go into chapter 2, I take a deeper dive and we talk about how can we rewrite those scripts. And so that's basically what chapter 2 is all about, rewriting the script. So if you want to change up the recipe, right? Like if you determine that maybe the ingredients are just not right, right? Maybe certain people you're around, maybe they're just not right. Or maybe you determine that maybe the way you're mixing the cake, right? Like maybe the way you're baking it, or maybe how long you put it in the oven. Maybe it's some certain tweaks that you need to make. Maybe you have the recipe, but there are certain tweaks that you need to make. That's going to be your time in chapter 2 to think about how you're going to rewrite the script. Okay. So I hope you have enjoyed this. And I wanted to just share this again, chapter 1, so that you have an idea of what to expect upon purchase of the book. I hope that you can share this with somebody that you feel may benefit from this, because boss moms we move differently. Okay. We move differently. And I want to help as many moms to get to a place where they're reinventing their lives. They're reprioritizing their well-being. You're putting yourself first, and you're doing things that elevate you so that you can elevate the people around you. Again, it's coming from my own personal experience as well as other people that are connected to me. But I feel pretty confident that this is going to be something that you're going to benefit from. So again, as I mentioned, pre-sales are going to begin on my birthday, y'all. Okay, so be on the lookout, because I will be sending out an invite to all of you. Like I want everybody to attend. If you can make it on January 23rd, I want you there on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live, because there's going to be a lot of information I'll be sharing. I'll also be giving some giveaways out to certain people who purchased the book quickly. So I want you to be a part of that. I'm so excited about where this book is going. I'm excited about the impact of the lives that it's going to touch, of the people's lives that it's going to change, of the moms that it's going to change. And so I need your help in helping me reach as many people as possible. So if you are interested to learn more, if you want to go ahead and get on the email list, I will be sharing a link and I will drop it in the chat. But I want you to sign up, provide me with your email information, just very basic information, your email, your phone number, and your name. And I will make sure that I keep you up to date on the progress of this book, because if we get everything set up before January 23rd, I promise you I will be putting out there before January 23rd. We will still have our virtual book launch party on January 23rd. So I'll have my family there. I have a lot of my close friends, but I want you to be a part of it if you can make it. If not, the replay will be available. Okay. So I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you all. For those of you who have joined on IG, thank you so much for your support. And then for those of you who are catching the replay on Facebook, thank you. And I want you to let me know, what is one thing that you got from this conversation? Share with me, and I would love to hear your thoughts on chapter 1. And I look forward to connecting with you all again tomorrow, because I will be back with more information from another chapter from my book. So I hope everybody has a fantastic evening and stay safe.